Well, we're glad that you heard about us. Thank you so much for coming. We want to get to know you more, so if you don't know already, we do have a 1 Million Cups app. You can just go to your Google Play or your iPhone, I'm not sure what they call it because I don't have an iPhone, but I think Google Play. Go download your app and get the 1 Million Cups app. Make sure you choose Dallas. And you can check in there. It helps us and you all be able to connect with who's already here. Especially if you didn't get a chance to speak with them, then you know who they are, and name is there, faces. I don't remember if the face is there or not. I just checked in. And you can click on who's here, and yeah, my face is there. I see a guy named Jay Leverens who just checked in. And, oh good, I met you at the door. Thanks for doing that. So the app's pretty cool. I would like to tell you about 1 Million Cups, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the deck and the space that we're in. So 1 Million Cups is a national nonprofit that exists throughout the US. It was started by the Kauffman Foundation 6 years ago actually, but for Dallas we've had it here for 5 years. And the purpose of 1 Million Cups is really to bring entrepreneurs together. We do it in a way so that you can engage, inspire, and uplift and really support each other. And why it started in the Kauffman Foundation in Missouri because there were a couple of people working there that needed to know more entrepreneurs, and they really couldn't count how many they knew on their 10 fingers. So they decided they needed to come up with something, and they came up with the concept of having coffee and connecting with entrepreneurs, and they made the brand, well, how about 1 million cups of coffee, 1 million conversations. So it worked out so well that it spread like wildfire, with only a few people at the first event, and now having it in 182 cities across the US. And here in Dallas, we tend to get about 50 people at each event. Sometimes we have upwards to 100 people, so it's really, really awesome. And it takes place every single Wednesday at 9 a.m. What we do is we put 2 presenters on stage. They all go through an application process, so it's not a last-minute thing, jump on the stage and present. It is, a 6-minute presentation that we decide who's going to present, and then we have the Q&A for 15 minutes. And so we're happy to have you here. Here's the app that I was telling you about. If you haven't checked in, please do so. Now, let me tell you quickly about the space that we're in. So this is Capital Factory and the Dallas Entrepreneur Center. I know it's quite confusing, so I think I need to bring some clarity to that. So the Capital Factory, it is an organization. They are in the business of helping startups. They run accelerator programs, and they came out of Austin. They decided to come here and really be part of the Dallas entrepreneur ecosystem. There's a lot of great startups here. They're mainly tech, they're tech focused. And so they do offer co-working, they do have memberships. We have Kinga sitting at the front, at the end of the bar there. Give us a wave, Kinga. So if anybody wants a tour of Capital Factory, she will be happy to help you if you're interested in the membership. And the Dallas Entrepreneur Center started in Dallas I think five years ago. And the purpose of Dallas Entrepreneurship Center is they're a nonprofit, and their purpose is to help the entrepreneur who's seeking some support to get the guidance that they need. And so if you're at the beginning of writing a business plan, you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do, they have great resources. They run programs throughout the week to offer you the kind of help and the guidance that you need. So I hope that creates some clarity about the 3 different organizations. If you have any questions, we are all happy to answer them. So I am going to invite our first presenter. Today's kind of a really unique, special day. We're looking at the focus of education and what organizations like Teach for America are doing, what's happening in the Dallas ISD, as well as entrepreneurs who've gone through the Teach for America program and have now excelled with launching their own businesses. So we have one example for you. I'm going to invite Kristen to the stage right now. She will have 6 minutes to present. We will be timing the presentation. So when she has 1 minute left, we're going to show her this sign. When she has 15 seconds left, we're going to show her this sign. And we all will start clapping Chris will be tapping in the front, so when he starts clapping, we'll start clapping too. So it's nothing personal to our presenter, it's just saying that the time has run out and we're ready for Q&A, which we'll lead. So Kristen, without further ado, we welcome you to the stage. And we stay up in Dallas and you can round the crowd. Thank you.
All right, and while he's pulling up the slides, I'll go ahead and just introduce myself. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Kristen Watkins. I'm the Director of Personalized Learning in Dallas ISD. And this has been our first year as a department. And folks often typically refer to us as entrepreneurs in a very large organization. And so we are kind of a startup department in Dallas ISD. Before I get into our department, I want to first introduce you to a few individuals. This is my mom, and growing up she was diagnosed with a hearing disability, and while I was growing up she often said her teachers taught over her, and I never really understood what she meant until I had my own classroom and my own set of kids. So this is a picture 10 years ago of my first class of students. This is my 6th period, 36 kids with very, very, very different needs across my classroom. And it wasn't until that first month that I really understood what my mom had been telling me all my life, and that folks often taught over her. And so kind of a quick journey is I taught for 5 years, and then I moved to the district level to start this personalized learning work 5 years ago. And then this is our driving question that kick-started the work back in 2013, and what pulled me out of the classroom, and that also is something that we're still trying to answer today. And so that is the strengths, needs, and interests of no two students are exactly alike. How do we construct learning models to pursue the individual student? Quick definition. This is the formal definition of personalized learning. It's really a one-size-fits-one approach to instruction. I think one of the oftentimes the misconception with personalized learning is that it has to do with technology. It has nothing to do, it's not one-to-one devices. It's the root and the core of what personalized learning is empowering our students to become self-directed and giving them work worth doing. Kind of giving you the journey up until this point. This work started back in the fall of 2013 with some central level strategic planning with executive leadership. We also were able to get funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that helped start the work. At that time we had 40 schools apply, and we selected 5 schools to launch in the 2015-16 school year. At that time at the district level, personalized learning was really thought of a type of school, and it was one of probably the most important lessons we've learned so far is that really personalized learning is an instructional strategy, and it should be available for any teacher, any student, and any school across the district. So at that point we shifted how we originally had thought about the work, and we started to think about opportunities we could create for teachers, like a teacher fellowship or partnering with feeder patterns, which mean clusters of schools, elementary, middle, and high school in parts of the city to start looking at different ways that we could grow personalized learning for our students. Last year, we officially became our own department, and what's important to note about this is up until this point, personalized learning in the district was thought of as a special project. We weren't quite sure if PL would live on after the funding from the Gates Foundation, and that really to this last year, we had multiple schools, fellowships, and feeder pattern partners that really told us that what we were doing was working and that their interest was growing. 2 months ago, we released our first ever impact report, which was super exciting to share with everyone. This was a lot of research and data to show that the work that we were doing is making an impact for our students. And then as we look ahead to this next year, we are doubling in size with our cohort schools. We're doubling in size with our feeder pattern partners. And we also recently got some funding from the state to help support that scale. And so quickly, just to kind of show you the growth by numbers. So what you see on this slide, each one of these icons represents a school in the district. So back in that pilot year, we had 5 wall-to-wall schools. Basically what that means is the expectation that personalized learning is in every classroom. When we officially launched first year, we also started to partner with feeder patterns. And what we kind of refer to that as like light touch support, where personalized learning may be in a couple grade levels, but not necessarily the expectation to go campus-wide. Our second year, we added one more feeder pattern. This year, we added 2 more schools, and we grew to 5 feeder patterns. And then as we look to this next year, which starts in a month when kids come back, we will have 17 personalized learning schools, and we will partner with 12 feeder patterns, which is just crazy to say. But this is 44% of the district is getting either wall-to-wall personalized learning or some light touch support from our department. And I think what's important about this slide is we would not have gotten here if we didn't have the metrics that we have been measuring over the past couple years and the touch points with the community, students, parents, our teachers, to know if what we're doing is working and if we should move forward. So real quick, the success to date, our cohort schools are generally outperforming the district in their feeder patterns in both achievement and growth. If you're really interested in that data, I've got our impact report that I'm happy to give out to anyone. We're also seeing that the demand for students at our PL schools is growing. We had almost 2,000 students apply for 718 seats this last year. Staff support is growing, and then what my favorite metric is 94% of our students believe that his or her student or teacher is learning, I'm sorry, I'm gonna try that again, is good at teaching them the way that they learn best. And I think this is what's missing here is like, how do we measure innovation? Which is something that we've been trying to figure out is how do we figure this out? And then this is our driving question for this next year, and what I'd love to hear from you guys is how might we sustain this success when we're scaling this rapidly?
We're going to start Q&A. The first question is, what can we as a community do for you?
Great, thank you. So I have a slide. So here are 3, this is the only one really that I've got done for you. But I think just come and visit a campus or join an educator tour, get involved. If you work at an organization where you could host an intern at the high school level, we've got high school students who are looking for opportunities. You can mentor a student. We have principal for a day if you want to serve as a principal for one of these campuses, and then also join an authentic audience for kids to be able to pitch, very similar to these types of environments, what I just went through for our kids, and then just be an advocate, get to know what's happening in the community in which you live, and then just help share positive stories about what's happening in Dallas.
Awesome. Any questions?
Hi, I don't recall, did you mention how you create a one-to-one lesson plan? Like, what is it? I mean, we heard a lot of statistics and, you know, your growth rate.
Yeah.
But what, for someone not being in the teaching field, if I'm a student, how do you create that one-to-one and what, as opposed to what they do now?
Yeah, great. Yeah, so really it's like the teacher level. If you are a sports person, think of it as like you've got your playbook, where you're not always going to run the same play every time that you're playing an opponent, right? So you've got different tricks in your toolbox. But for a student, it's really about sitting alongside them and helping them start to use data or their interest, or like if a student watches the video and doesn't understand from the video and they may need a one-on-one like conversation with the teacher to talk it out, then they reflect on it. Does that work? Or is the video working? And so like really the teachers are becoming coaches, and it's less about what I'm doing right now and standing in front of the room and hoping that like you're all getting the same message or learning the same thing.
So at the beginning of the year, does each teacher sit down with the student and try to figure out how they're going to learn?
Yes.
And then kind of throughout the year?
Yeah, what that looks like, every kid has like what we call an educational learner profile, which you kind of having like one-on-ones where you're just getting to know and building that rapport with students, that you could use that data over the year.
Morning.
Hi.
I have a two-part kind of question. So I know you said you had an impact report that kind of lays out some of your data, but briefly, could you tell us what are some of the metrics you're using to really score the children's performance or engagement in this curriculum that you provided? And Two, second question is, how does it compare just roughly, statistically compared to what we have standard? Is it 10% improvement, 20%? What are they seeing on math and reading scores that have improved?
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to give you all of that to look at, but I think just in short, we're using the same metrics that every school is held accountable for. So when you look at STAR results for one of our elementary schools this past year, over the past 2 years, they've raised like the math STAR test up 26% in terms of like passing. And then what I think the most important piece for us is those advanced scores of like really, it doesn't really mean much really to pass a test, but like how do you like deepen the learning and how do we know that they're really college and career ready? And there's an indicator at the state level that they measure that. So that's where we're kind of seeing a lot of the like metrics and measuring it there. We also use an adaptive software, or it's not adaptive, it's a test that measures growth. It's called the MAP test. And that's something that's not used across the district, but it's something that we use to kind of make sure that we're meeting individual goals and also with the like grade level standards and expectations. Your second question, will you remind me again what it was?
Just comparing it to what we said, the standard way of teaching.
Yeah. Did that answer? Okay.
Any other questions? And hold your hand up while I'm walking around if you have another question.
Was this so started brand new in Dallas, or is it being done elsewhere, and you sort of, copied that from other states or other cities?
Yeah, so personalized learning is not necessarily new across the nation. There are other districts, charter network organizations that are also trying to kind of like figure this out. But Denver Public Schools is a partner that we often go and talk to and visit. DC Public Schools is doing this. There's a lot of networks and schools out in the California area that have been doing this for 20 years. And are just now getting to the capacity where they can share their platforms and what they're doing with the greater nation.
Can I ask, what is the reception from teachers like? Do you have some teachers resisting change in this direction? Do you have a lot of teachers that get on board straight away? Is it a volunteer process?
Yeah.
Where the teacher has to volunteer before you try it out?
Yeah. So in the beginning, the work really started with a coalition of the willing. Teachers were given the opportunity to opt in, and what we saw that most teachers did, right? And then they weren't really sure what we were all kind of getting into. I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot of planning for a teacher to have to rethink, like how am I going to teach and make sure that every kid's need is being met, right? But I think the way that we message it at the district level is most important, is that it's a learning process and that personalized learning is not gonna happen overnight. And it's not something that we evaluate. We have an evaluation system, but that's not what we're trying to do when we're working on personalized learning. We built like a tool that really helps, and it's all about coaching so that we're all learning and growing, and we give that autonomy back to teachers to say, what do you want to work on in your classroom this month or this year? And then we kind of coach them to that process too.
And how do you train the teachers on this?
So the most important, I think, lesson that we've learned is they have to experience it, right? We've all gone through school, we've all had our own experiences, which makes it a very dicey conversation when, well, I went to school and everything was just fine, right? But that, like, if they can go through professional development and training and coaching that literally models the exact same thing that you would want to do for kids, that's when it starts to click, and that's when they can say, oh, I remember when you had that coaching conversation with me, that's what I should be doing with my kids, or that's how I could use data to help them start to decide what they need to do.
Hey, so as a designer, the quantitative stats are great, but we love stories. So what's your favorite story from this year of Impact?
So my last group of kids that I taught graduated this year, which was really exciting. But then I also had a small group of 7th grade students, and when they were in 7th grade that are now going to be seniors this year, and a few of them are at our personalized learning high school. And I think just getting to be a part of their journey from 7th grade until 12th grade and watch how they've grown in this type of environment has been the most powerful.
Have you seen any issues with students that maybe experience personalized learning in 1 grade and then move on to the next grade or the next level and don't get that personalized learning? You know, you said not all schools are participating, so
Yeah.
is it possible for, go from one to the other and have you seen any issues?
Yeah, so what we have found, so when we started our original schools, we had 3 elementary, 1 middle, and 1 high school, but not all of those elementary schools fed into a personalized environment. And so we're starting to see that shift now where we've got kids that have learned in this environment for 3 years and then are going back into a very traditional setting. But I think what's really neat is the kids are the ones that are driving that transition, and they're telling their teachers like, hey, could you do this? And so it's a matter of kind of helping them be more professional in giving teachers that feedback. But what we're seeing from those schools, it's like, hey, these kids keep talking about what they used to do. Can you help us, or can we come and go see what their 5th grade classroom was like so that we can start to structure 6th grade to better meet the needs of what they've been doing. But we are growing. We're adding a middle school that's launching in August to hopefully try to get kids to continue learning in that environment.
Hey, it's me again. I had a question about the workload for the teachers. So I have a couple of friends who are teachers, and one of the comments that I've noticed they always say to me is that the progress or moving forward with the curriculum, sometimes you're bottlenecked by the slowest learners in the class, that you can't progress as fast as you can through the curriculum, the no left behind kind of concept. So do you find that within a classroom you may have really fast moving kids and you may have slower learners, but it sounds like if you personalize it, you can make a lot of stratifications just within a classroom. Do you find your teachers are kind of overworked, that they have to personalize for all 30 students in a class? Or do you see what I'm saying? Do you feel like, man, I have to keep pace with all of their differences and kind of personalize it, whereas before the teacher would come in with one set plan, hey, we're doing multiplication, we're all doing it, versus someone who's not even doing addition or subtraction as well as the kids are doing, something a little bit more difficult. So what are the teachers saying about, in terms of workload?
I think what's been most powerful for my position is the teachers actually want to work even harder because they have a stronger relationship with their kids. And that's really what this is about, is building more of that coaching role and getting to know the kids so that they can, build these differentiated lessons. I think what's also super important is it doesn't always look like 35 different lesson plans, right? I may have 15 kids who are just killing it and multiplying fractions, and so I may pull all 15 of those kids, do something for them, right? And then I may have 4 kids here. But then when they go to dividing fractions, I may just have 1 kid that's still kind of struggling, and then I'll pull them there. So I think what's great about this is it just gives teachers more options, and that it helps them also realize that they're really the drivers of the curriculum versus having to follow a set pacing guide, even though they know it may not work for every single one of their kids.
We have time for one more question.
So when you have students who have, say, gone through K through 8 with a traditional setting and then go into high school, I imagine that's a lot more freedom and autonomy than they're used to when it's not the teacher in front of the classroom. How has that transition been, or what support has been put there to make sure that it's not a free-for-all of 15-year-olds?
Yeah. So this is definitely across the nation a conversation that we've had with folks that are in similar positions to me is, when you have kids that have learned in very traditional settings and then you put them in a personalized environment, they're going to have to unlearn, what do you mean I can talk? I can work in a group? And so I think it's one of the lessons learned early on was you have to be really intentional about teaching kids how to operate in these different environments. you have to be really intentional about helping teachers learn how to use spaces like this. I think a great example is, I saw one class that was in an environment like this, and then they asked the kids all to do something individually, and then they kept talking, and then there's like, well, wait, how could you leverage the space that you're in, so that like when you do the individual activity when you're in like your classroom, and then come together in a large space like this and leverage the synergy of having everyone together to like carry on a conversation or to like, pull something together.
So we'll do it. Another round of applause. Okay, very good. Thank you, Kristen. That was a great presentation. So this is our little intermission. It's not really time that you can get up and go anywhere, because it's not that long of a break. But this is the time for us to thank our sponsors. So we always have, I'm going through Kristen's presentation, sorry. So you've noticed, I'm sure, that we have several sponsors here. The first one being Teach for America. And Teach for America, you'll see their logos there, is also with SMU. They've partnered together to provide the coffee for us today. And we also have our venue that we're sitting in right now. So our venue is Capital Factory and the DEC, so we're thankful to them that they're hosting us here every Wednesday. We have high brew coffee in the back. If you've never tried cold pressed brew, this is your opportunity to do so, especially trying out a local company. They're based out of Austin, and they come and join us. They've been joining us once a month for the past several years, and we'll be seeing them quarterly now. And Kurtu Treats, they are also a sponsor that's been with the DEC for probably 3 to 5 years, something like that, very long time. They are not always with us, but because they're with us so often, we always want to give them a shout out. So we're thankful that they've continued their partnership with 1 Million Cups. And then our videographer, Michael Bruner, he runs a videography company, and he often is here snapping shots for us as well, high res. So we like for you all to know about him as well. I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you to check in, if you haven't checked in already. We do have the app. I did see that about 20 people checked in, so thanks for doing that. Using the app also gives you the opportunity to rate the presenters, and we'd like for you to do that because that's the only way that they can improve. And we are all about helping each other, so if you sign into the app, you'll see who's here, and you can also give feedback to each of the presenters. That opportunity is only available today, so if you let today, 24 hours go by, if you try to do it tomorrow, unfortunately we won't be able to get your feedback for them. So we just want to remind you of that. For anyone standing around, there are plenty, well, not necessarily plenty, but there's at least 7 seats up at the front here. You don't have to stand the whole time. We invite you to take this opportunity to come and grab a seat. And then there's some standing room in the corner back here as well. So we invite you to do that. I also want to let you know that we have, Capital Factory and the DEC have offered free co-working today. So you are welcome to do that. Okay, and it's only on this level, on floor 1, so before you dash out of here afterwards, we don't want you to dash. We want you to mingle, talk, and co-work, please. I would like to invite my sponsor for coffee, Teach for America. They are keeping us caffeinated all month long, and we can't have 1 Million Cups program without coffee. And so thank you, Krista Camp from Teach for America. Please come to the stage and tell us what you're up to.
Thank you, Isabel. As you said, I'm Krista Camp. I'm the Director of Community and Innovation Leadership at Teach for America Dallas-Fort Worth. At our foundation, if you don't know much about Teach for America, we believe a pretty simple thing. Potential is equally distributed among children in America, but opportunity is not. So we recruit and develop people, leaders in fact, to work on behalf of educational equity, first in the classroom for at least 2 years, because the classroom is an excellent act of leadership. But after, we know that leadership will be required at all levels in all sectors for educational equity to be realized. So you saw today, Kristen and then Ben will be soon up here. Our leaders choose to contribute in a variety of ways. whether that's through schools, classrooms, school systems, or by developing their own venture. One of the most important ways that you can contribute to us is that our entrepreneurs are typically early stage and have a background in education and really need financial modeling support, mentorship, other ways in which they can grow as entrepreneurs. So if that's of interest to you, we have a sign-up sheet over there where you can sign up to learn more about them. Lastly, we can't do this work alone, and so one of the best things we get to do is develop partnerships with other organizations. So I'm going to invite Devin and Katie up here to talk a little bit about SMU.
Hey folks, how you doing? Good. Awesome. So really quick, I'm Devin. I'm Associate Director of Design and Innovation Programs at SMU. I'm also an educator and worked some time in K-12, so holler at all K-12 educators. The Master of Arts in Design and Innovation, we believe that the process of creating design things and products and services, that process is actually a process that can get lots of people to creative ideas. And that you do not only have to be a formally trained designer, that this is a process that we can teach people from a diverse range of backgrounds with a diverse range of skill sets. So we want to encourage people who are interested in learning about what is human-centered design, the methodology that we teach, what are the mindsets that we develop in our learners, and what is a really non-traditional type of graduate master's degree learning experience. I got business cards, so come and talk to me afterwards, and thanks so much for your time.
Hi, good morning. My name is Katie Kromick. I'm the director of the SMU Maker Education Project, and I am a colleague of Devin's. We kind of have overlapping programs. We are interested in driving disruptive, innovative teaching strategies in schools by leveraging the tools of the maker movement, and also thinking differently about how you work with students and help them have really student-driven learning experiences. I also have expertise in human-centered design, particularly in the K-12 world, and use it both as a pedagogical framework for teaching kids and doing that disruptive instruction, and also as a driver of innovation in schools, which are messy, human, complex places, and we believe schools in particular are well suited to leveraging human-centered design to think differently and drive innovation in those contexts. So the way I do that is both by leading design work in schools and also developing the innovation capacity in school leaders and educators. So lots of collaboration with Maddie, but also the Maker Education work. So check this out. We're on the internet and at SMU.
Thank you. Okay. So, in case nobody knows yet, I need to let you know where the restrooms are. I realize that not everyone knows. There's the kitchen when you walked in, and the wall behind that is where the restrooms are. So if you need to take a quick break, go ahead. We would like to invite our next presenter to the stage. Just one second. Let me get your presentation up here first. Everyone having a good time? Oh, I like that. Thanks. It's rough up here when everyone stays silent. You wonder, are they really having a good time or not? Okay, thanks. This one. Oh. So, I'm still getting used to this space. Some of you may not know that the deck actually was on Market Street, and we just recently moved over here. So this is actually our second week running the 1 Million Cups program in here. So we're still getting used to the dynamic, the computer, the setup, which is really awesome, super advanced, and we love it. Okay, so we're ready. So Gateway to the Great Outdoors. Benjamin is, can you tell us, oh actually, real quick, I'll just mention that he's a graduate through TFA, so it's great to have, yeah, it's great to hear about their program and what they're up to, and then to have this segue of one of their entrepreneurs and we'll hear about his company. So thank you so much, Benjamin. We'll stand for him again, and we'll give a round of applause for our second presenter.
Is the mic working? Can everyone hear me? Awesome. So, my name is Ben Aiken. I'm really proud and really excited to share my program, Gateway to the Great Outdoors, with you today. My program, quick little synopsis, is focused on bringing outdoor education and science curriculum to low-income schools, mainly in an urban environment that don't really have access to the outdoors. So I grew up loving the outdoors, always being in the wilderness. I was in the Boy Scouts, I became an Eagle Scout, and I still look to camping and the outdoors as a place of retreat and a place where I can really decompress and become kind of reflect. And with that love and passion for the outdoors, I created this program in college a couple years ago. Really just focused on having as much fun as possible in the outdoors with people that don't really get the chance to go outside. And camping and science and that sort of thing, really fun stuff. But as I became a teacher, I quickly realized that science is kind of ignored in the classroom sometimes and isn't really the focus as much as it should be. There's such a focus on math and reading that science sometimes gets forgotten. And I quickly realized that there's a direct correlation between racial representation in the STEM workforce and I think access to STEM curriculum and opportunity in STEM from a young age. And so Black and Hispanic populations are underrepresented in this workforce, which I think is because they don't have access to it early. So the purpose of my program really shifted, and we focused more on addressing this and really using the outdoors as a way to teach science. So our solution is threefold. We focus on mentorship, a rigorous science curriculum, and weekend outdoor adventures. We pair students with teachers that are not their direct teachers, but leaders within the school. And they teach a hands-on science lesson once a week, which is kind of paired and supported by these outdoor adventures. The way this looks is that every week we have either an in-school or after-school program, depending on what the school needs, where students will run the recycling on their campus, they will maintain a garden, and they will do science experiments and team building activities with these mentors. So we might talk about an ecosystem, we might draw a big food web and make comparisons, look at our garden and understand what's eating our things and stuff like that. And then we'll go on these monthly outdoor adventures, which really support that learning. So then we'll go on a hike and we will see those food webs we were just learning about. We will be in those ecosystems and the learning will really come to life in front of these students. And our monthly outdoor trips really take different form. We'll go on hikes. We've gone to the Fort Worth Nature Center and various other parks. We'll go on camping trips. We'll go rock climbing, canoeing, all sorts of experiences that can really enhance our science and just be a really fun opportunity to get outside and love the outdoors. Like I said, we're really focusing in on this urban Title I school population, which Title I schools have 90% free and reduced lunch. We think that these students might not have the chance to really experience a park or go on a hike, that sort of thing. And so we're really focused on grades 5 through 8 in these neighborhoods. We are gender inclusive, and we really like to promote STEM for both genders. I'm really, really proud to share with you our growth today. So to date, we've been in 9 schools, and we've seen excellent citizenship and science growth from our students. In terms of citizenship, we've heard from the teachers and administrators on campuses that if you're part of our program, the students are behaving better and they're more engaged in class, of course specifically with science, but just all around. With the responsibility that we give them with the garden and with the recycling, they're really proud to be at school and they have a bit more drive to be there. Additionally, we are not a science tutoring program. However, we are a science enrichment program. And so naturally, the exposure to science, we're not drilling the facts, we are experiencing science. Naturally, that science experience is helping them with their grades and their standardized test scores. That's not necessarily our focus. We're not going to have a little quiz at the end of every session, but it certainly helps, and the exposure is really helping them grow. A real focus of ours is that since we're serving these communities, we don't want to charge our students or the schools that we're teaching in. we are possibly shifting into a model where we're starting to charge the districts, but really we want it to be free of cost and meet the students right where they are. So we provide them a snack, we provide them with any supplies that they might need, and the meals that they might need on our trips. That's all on us. We just want them to show up and really be excited to be outside. With that in mind, our revenue model, we are a certified nonprofit, and the majority of our money comes from individual and foundational gifts. We get a lot of in-kind donations with old camping gear and gifts from grocery stores, things like that. Generally, our cost structure, the first year, it's only about $9,000 to start the program. So that gets the garden built, that collects all of those lesson materials, that trains the mentors on the campus. And those mentors are usually about 3 teachers on the campus and maybe an outside mentor, such as myself, that is kind of running the program and getting them set up for that second year, where the cost goes way down to only about $5,000 a year. And that covers trip expenses and the transportation and things like that. Like I said, I'm really proud of how far we've come. We are established in 3 cities. We started in St. Louis, but we've expanded up to Chicago and down to Fort Worth. We're at 9 schools, serving over 250 kids, ages 10 to 15. We're really hoping to expand here in DFW and up in Chicago in the next 2 years. That's our big focus. We are trying to develop partnerships with school districts, sporting goods stores, that sort of thing that can help us in that capacity, and expand within our regions and eventually to new cities. Thank you so much.
Without Q&A, what can we as a community do for you?
So like I said, that next step is really important, but really our challenges are building our network, getting in touch with other school districts, getting in touch with the right principals and the right teachers that are going to be passionate about the outdoors, passionate about science, but also getting in touch with sporting goods stores and grocery stores, that sort of thing, to kind of help us develop our gardens, develop our trips.
Question?
How many kids can you support for that initial 9,000 and then the 5,000 thereafter?
Sure. So we maintain a 6-to-1 ratio of students to mentors. If we're trying to develop a mentorship, we feel if we have more than 6 students with 1 mentor, it's kind of hard to really develop that strong relationship, especially if we're just meeting once a week. So we usually have 4 volunteers, and therefore 24 to 30 students that are in the program for the first year. After that pilot year, there's usually a bit of a buzz on campus about the program, and we usually start with like 5th grade, so the 4th graders want to join, and so there's room to expand after that first year.
Hi Ben, it's great to see TFA alumni. I guess I'm going to plug again. My question is, so I heard you speak about students of color, and I believe I saw in the graph that you highlighted Black and Hispanic students. I think a pain point that we have in DFW right now is that our Asian community feels left behind. So I'm just wondering how, or if you are reaching out to our Asian students, because while they were a little bit higher than Black and Hispanics, I definitely feel like they're not included in the conversation as much. So how are you challenging that and making sure that they feel welcome in this?
Absolutely, so it's a very fair point. When we come into our schools, really the schools that we go into, we've reached out to and kind of created this partnership with, and so usually that's the population that is at the school. However, anyone within our age group is welcome to enroll. Unfortunately, we have had wait lists and that sort of thing, because like I said, we're really trying to build that mentorship relationship, but we're not discriminating in any way. So we haven't necessarily pushed that population yet, but as we expand, that's something we'll certainly come in contact with.
I have a question related to parents.
Sure.
I know more than likely the areas that you're in, the parents don't really have a lot of capacity to possibly join in, especially for the off-campus opportunities, but is it in your plans to get the parents more involved, or is it strictly going to be between students, teachers, and volunteers?
Absolutely. So, very good question. I think one thing that we're focused on is developing more of a parent partnership program. And so we certainly have trips that are designed to really include the parents. Our rock climbing trip this past year was so much fun. Some of the parents came and actually went rock climbing with their kids, which was a ton of fun. And they're welcome to come during the sessions during the week, but we can't train all the parents, and we are ultimately liable. So we have certified teachers and trained mentors in wilderness first aid and CPR and those sorts of things. And so we do include the parents as much as possible, but something we're working on expanding, definitely.
You may have already mentioned this here, but how do you handle kids who may be at different levels? So for instance, if you have certain kids who are a little bit further ahead, whether it's in science or what have you, how do you manage that? And I have one additional question for you as well.
Sure. So, depending on the school, we'll work with a different age group. So, in elementary schools, we really focus on 5th graders. We think that's kind of a prime age to go on a camping trip, and a younger might not be appropriate. And so, on the middle school level, we open it up to all grades, and we try and give leadership opportunities for those that are a little bit more advanced. So we have what's called a crew leader. We divide the kids up into different crews with, where they're paired with a mentor, and then those students that are showing a lot of drive and a lot of knowledge in science, they'll help us plan the trips, they'll help us set up the experiments, that sort of thing. And so we kind of give them a little bit of responsibility and a little bit of leadership that way.
The second question I have for you is that I know in Texas and in many different areas there's a big growing population of homeschool kids. How are you going to be, are you open to reaching those particular families? And there's many associations associated with that. Are you open to that as well?
Absolutely. A big goal of ours is to ultimately open a facility and have maybe not this tied to a school, but really tied to a community and more of a gateway outdoors center. And that would really give us the opportunity to work with populations that aren't being addressed here. In addition to that, we're looking at bringing in certain students that aren't at the school but are really excited about the program, really want to participate. Why don't they come in every Friday for our program, even if they're not necessarily a student at the school? So we're working on that, certainly. But ultimately, having that facility is our end goal, definitely.
For the kids that you started doing this with a few years ago, what have their outcomes been when they've gone into high school, or if any of them are now college age? What have the stories been like after they kind of graduate from the program?
Sure. So we're only 3 years in, and so we don't have any college students yet. We haven't expanded to high school yet. That's something we're really excited about, but we're trying to expand at the right rate. But we have been tracking our students as much as we can. A lot of our students that we started with in St. Louis, they move schools a lot, and so it's really hard to keep in touch with them and really track their growth and what their progress. So we do our best with that, and we have seen that they're interested in science later on, and we try and create the programs where if they're at an elementary school, the middle school they'll go to next year will also have our program so they can stay with us. And so we have noticed a bit of science growth, but it's really hard to track right now. So as we grow, that's something we're excited about, and excited to see our long-term impact, definitely, yeah.
Do you have a need for volunteers who can help you with grant applications? I know that's a really heavy lift and time consuming. You're nodding a lot. Okay. I just thought about that in terms of, that is a lot of your funding, and some people may not like the outdoors. Sometimes one of them don't like it. But if there is a need for that, okay, good to know.
Good time, absolutely.
It is. So my first question is if you could talk a little bit more intently about what the student recruitment process is, and then I think as kind of a follow-up on that, I'm wondering about, based in the population of students that you're looking into and potentially the many different kind of demands on their time and responsibilities that they may have, how do you keep students engaged on kind of a week-to-week basis? So that they can get, basically what I really want to know is, so how much do they really have to be involved participating in the program to get to the outcomes you want?
Absolutely. Yeah, so one thing important to note is that we're very adaptable per campus. And so if we come in and a principal says, we really need you to work with our students that are struggling with behavior, then that's who we'll focus on. Or if they're saying, we have these kids that really like science, but we don't have the resources to do science experiments, can you do that? We will. So it really depends on what the campus needs. stay true to what we are and what our mission is, but we try and fill that need. So sometimes we'll help those students that are struggling academically, socially, that sort of thing. Generally, we reach out to their teachers and we say, who do you think is a good fit for this program? Based off what the principal said, based off what we're trying to address in this school, who do you think in your class needs this program? But we send home letters to all the parents and we invite everyone, but we do like that teacher input and that administration input as well. We are pretty rigorous with our behavior and but our behavior and attendance standards. If we're going to go camping with you, we need to be able to trust you and know that it's going to be a safe environment. And so if we have behavior concerns, we are quick to remove someone, assuming that it's justified. Of course, if we're focused on growing behavior, we're not going to kick anyone out right away. But with that wait list, give someone else the opportunity who's going to be really excited about it and take it seriously. Additionally, attendance, if you're missing too many sessions, you're not allowed to go on the outdoor trips. And that's like the best part of our program. And the kids take that very seriously. And so if they're sick, they'll call in and they'll say, I'm so sorry. So they really get excited about the trips. And with that as the goal, because the learning builds up to the trips, they take it very seriously.
Morning. So I grew up in New York City, and so I definitely was one of these kids that never saw nature until I was well in my teens. So I see the reward in a program like this. I'm very happy that you created it. I'm curious about the more expensive cities, some of these coastal cities, the northeastern corridor, you know, where the costs of living are higher, costs for transportation and whatnot. I imagine those students cost a little more to bus to a preserve or something like that. How are you stratifying your resources to kind of get into these more expensive areas? Because I lived in Chicago as well for a few years, and I can imagine to bring in a student in Chicago costs far more than Fort Worth. How are you stratifying your costs?
Absolutely. So we're hoping to develop partnerships with different outdoor programs. And one thing that I'm working on right here in Fort Worth and Dallas is a farm nearby where we can camp for free. And we can kind of develop those partnerships where the cost is eliminated that way, or work with other organizations to get in-kind donations like camping equipment, that sort of thing. But a huge cost is transportation. You're exactly right. And in other more expensive cities, our revenue model definitely has to change. But we're cautious to grow into those regions until we've really developed the relationships and the partnerships that will really allow us to do it at an affordable rate.
Hi Ben, how are you?
Hey.
My question here is, what is the demographic makeup of the people that work with your students? I know that they're teachers within schools.
Sure.
So the second part of that is just like, what efforts are you putting in place to ensure that the people that our students are working with are also reflective of the demographics of the kids in your program?
Absolutely. I think the first part of getting our volunteers is interest in going outside. And I think that's kind of the limiting factor for a lot of teachers and school employees. And so that's kind of where we start. But after that first year, like I said, that first year is kind of our pilot trial year at each campus. And there's always kind of the working out the kinks at each campus. But then we really grow in our capacity to welcome other volunteers, other mentors. And so after that first year, once we've established ourselves on the campus, we have the curriculum materials, the whole campus knows who we are, then we can open it a little more widely and people are more comfortable. I didn't love science as a kid, I don't like camping. Well, that's okay. We have it all set up. Come on in, participate anyway. So the mentorship side is something that, again, something we're working on, we're very new, but it's that first year where it's really limited to who's interested. So
I've got a question here. Yeah. So the name Gateway to the Great Outdoors, it's great, and it seems really long. So question, do you have a plan to turn it into an acronym? Like the YMCA, for example, like no
Sure.
one says Young Men's Christian Association, right? So that's a good example of maybe that's the pathway, like 2 or 3 years from now when everybody knows, or when most people know what it is, then is it something you're considering?
So we often refer to it as Gateway or GGO, Gateway Great Outdoors. So I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but it's usually just Gateway, especially on the campuses, it's GGO or Gateway.
All right, last question.
Hey there. So I was also a Teach for America alum, so good to see you here. And one of the things you said at the start is that your idea about why that graph looks the way that it does, right? So why Latino, Black, and Asian students are going into STEAM careers at a much lower rate. You said is because of lack of access early on, and I definitely see that being an issue. But I also know that we could agree there's lots of other structural barriers in these kids' way, right?
Absolutely.
Getting into those schools. I know like most Title I high schools don't actually have the rigorous college-ready classes, right? That kids would need to go in those careers. So I guess I'm curious in terms of the long-term sustainability of your goals and what you're kind of aiming towards. Do you imagine the role of your mentors evolving in any way to sort of support that transition through college or through high school and college as kids are navigating not only a lack of access to the outdoors, but also maybe a lack of access to the steps that are required to get them into those spaces?
Yeah, so I think my answer will kind of be in two parts. First, kind of going back, let me pull the graph up again. I think it starts with interest. And so if these students aren't interested in science, then they're not going to seek out these classes. And so it really starts with understanding what's out there and getting excited about the outdoors, but not just the outdoors, just STEM as a whole. So I think the spark is interest, and then you're right, they need more opportunities. We can't provide a AP level physics course for the kids once they get to high school, but what I've learned is that many of our volunteers are learning along with the students, and so the curriculum that I've written for each grade level and each level is not at their grade level, it's above. And so a lot of the teachers are learning too. Teachers and just mentors as a whole are learning along with the students. So I think, yes, the mentors get a little bit more passionate about it, and as they see the kids become more involved, and as the administration sees the kids working with the garden and doing the recycling and just making a volcano outside the parking lot, that sort of thing, I think they get a bit more, well, maybe this is something we should invest our time in. And that's something that we try and influence later on down the road. But like I said, it really starts with that interest. Cool. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. I hope you all enjoyed that this morning. This is how we do it in Dallas. So I'm really happy. Well, because some of the other 1 million cups actually are slightly different. So if you ever get a chance, I'm going to give a shout out that there are other chapters. There's one in Fort Worth. We have one in Addison as well, and in Frisco, which is very heavily focused on education. In fact, they live stream to the Frisco ISD. So they all operate a little bit differently, different audience, but we're all about collaboration. So we do give shout outs to each other, and the teams are run separately. We are a volunteer-run organization. If you are interested in getting involved with us, I'm happy to speak with you as well and share more about what happens behind the scenes. So I do want to remind you that we're offering free co-working today. It is just on this level, so around the back there's kind of a lounge area with really cool lounge chairs. You might feel like you're in your living room. And then around the bend is a VR room, so you can hang out there. I think there's video games, or like those old school arcade games are back there. So feel free to hang out. The guest password is easy to log into. And does anyone have any questions for me right now at all? No? Okay, if you haven't checked in with the app, I'm just gonna say it again for the 10th time today. We really want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know others, and doing it through the app is one option. So thanks so much for being here, everybody. This is gonna end our session today. We look forward to seeing you